requested previously. We had dinner downstairs, no business was discussed. And we will start with comments from the public unrelated to any of the matters at hand tonight. Cindy Cromer. Oh, wait a minute. Don't we have to get... We should...
Don't you want, but you have to approve the minutes and a report from the chair and, well, that's okay. Nothing, that's fine.
I miss a month, but I forget everything.
You're fine.
Okay. We need to approve the minutes from the March 7th meeting. Has everyone read those?
I move that we approve the March 7th meeting minutes.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. We can do this as a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That passes unanimously. Minutes from March 7th are approved. Report of the chair and the vice chair. I have nothing to report. Robert?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Very good.
I want to bring one thing up. I get these things in the mail every now and then, and they're from these guys that like to sell replacement windows. And they have a way of going in on Saturdays. So I thought I'd pass this down to staff. Give them a little call and remind them that.
When you say going in on Saturdays, they
Yeah,
come
we
in on Saturdays
contacted
and
them
Oh, quite
do the
literally.
work?
The house
They're in and
next to
out?
me, they took out all the wood windows on a Saturday, and by sunset, it had all new vinyl windows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, David.
Right.
Do you have anything for us, Michaela?
Yes, I have a couple things. The first thing is you've probably received an email from Marlene asking you if you would like to attend the Preservation Utah conference. So please make sure to reply back to her if that works for you. I'm not sure if it's up on their website yet, their actual agenda and lineup, but I assume it's going to be shortly. So we'll send out another email, but just respond yes or no so that we know, so that the city can sponsor you to go to that. We have 2 CLG grants as well for 2 people, so that's one thing. The other thing is actually Amy Thompson is the planner working on a text amendment that's been initiated by the mayor. If you recall, not this last legislative session, but the session before, there was a bit in state code where the mayor or the governing body became a historic preservation appeals authority. So an applicant had the option of either, if they appealed your decision as a body, they got to choose either to go to the appeals hearing officer or to choose the mayor to be the appeals hearing officer, to act as the appeals hearing officer. That was actually taken out of the state code. So we're going to reverse and go back to where we were before. Now, the applicant still gets 30 days rather than 10 days to file an appeal. But if one of your decisions or the planning commission decisions, it's the same structure as it was before last year. So I think that's a good thing for the mayor now and whoever will be the mayor. Any questions about that?
This is just a regular appeal. So is there still what was the 3-person commission for a
Economic
for a
hardship
tear down?
panel?
Yeah.
No, we got rid of the economic hardship panel. That the last panel for Bishop's Place, that was the last panel ever again at
Will
Salt Lake
never
City.
happen again.
We'll never have a panel again.
Amen. One case too late, right?
That's all I have to report.
Hey, thank you, Michaela. All right, now, continuing in proper order, hopefully. I'll open the floor to public comment, and I have one card from Cindy Cromer.
So my apologies for the tardy arrival of some documentation in your Dropbox. The first thing I submitted was too intense and got rejected by the city's MIS department. So if you have a garden in City Creek Canyon, you know that you're dealing with an historic stream bed because you can only put plants in between the cobbles, and the cobbles are everywhere. So my question was, just how old is this park space that's north of 2nd Avenue and south of Ottinger Hall at the entrance to City Creek Park? First, I looked at the 1898 Sanborn map. That's the first one that covers the area. City Creek is above ground, explaining the very wide public right-of-way there. By 1911, which is the next Sanborn map, the stream is underground, and the area where it had been doesn't have much descriptive information. I decided that's not really that surprising since the Sanborn maps were designed to be used for fire insurance, and usually there's not too much concern about fire in the public right-of-way. So I looked at the master plan for City Creek. That was in 1986 that it was adopted. And it says that the stream went underground in 1909. One can understand that when you look at the historic photographs of the channel for the stream, which had extremely steep sides and I'm sure was prone to flooding periodically. In 1912, following a petition by the residents, the city installed landscaping on 2 medians between the east and west alignments of Canyon Road, and photos from 1912 are in that attachment you received, both the north and the south island. By the time aerial photographs were taken in 1936 and 1937, the trees had become highly visible canopy, and there were other species that were easy to identify in the records, such as turf. I'm making the case that the park space between the two sides of Canyon Road is historic. It has the same shape as it did at the time of its creation 107 years ago. The landscape islands have the same relationship to the very large number of contributory structures which surround them. The trees have matured and survived a flood and a tornado. Anyone present in 1912 would recognize this park space as the same place today. Its survival, largely intact, is something of a miracle given its proximity to downtown and the assaults by the weather. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, unfinished business, new construction at 170 West to 600 North.
Hello. My name is Ashley Scarf. Amy covered this item for me at the last month's meeting, but I'm back from vacation, so I'll be taking it over again this evening. This item is a continuation from that meeting on March 7th. The subject property is 170 West, 600 North. On this aerial, you can see the approximate lot boundary. The proposed new principal structure would have frontage on 600 North, and vehicular access would come from Clinton Avenue to the north down a private alley. So the garage doors of the accessory structure located at the rear of the lot would be north facing, and the cars would come in from that back alley. The request is for new construction approval for the single-family home and the accessory structure with a garage and ADU. There were 2 special exception requests: window walls that exceed the maximum permitted width of 6 feet on the principal structure, and the proposed accessory structure has a footprint that exceeds 50% of the footprint of the principal structure. So the item was tabled at the last meeting, and the commission recommended the applicants create a more defined front porch that is compatible with historic front porches seen on the block face, amend the glazing on the front facade to be more compatible with window patterns typically seen on the block face and within the historic districts, and reevaluate the need for an increased footprint for the accessory structure in return with a more compelling argument. This slide shows changes that have been made to address the comments regarding the front porch and glazing on the front facade. For the porch, the massing at the front of the home has generally remained the same, but the structure was pushed back about 1 foot to make room for a more defined front porch. A metal screen element with a support column has been added above the entryway, and the second level roof canopy has been extended to project further out from the front facade. The concrete slab on grade has been made deeper to create more of a sitting area. And a second metal planter has also been added to try to create a sense of enclosure for the sitting area. Pushing the house back a foot allowed the designers to make the second level balcony a foot deeper than it was last time. And they also, for the windows, they changed the mullion pattern on the windows that surround the front entryway. They removed the mullions that kind of create that like upper transom like delineation. And it also looks like they added a vertical running mullion along the corner of the home rather than having the clear glass wrap the corner like in the last version of the proposal. And I included this graphic. So this is looking at the east elevation at the porch area. So you can kind of see that second level canopy has been extended and you can see the depth of that metal structure. And when it comes to the building footprints and the lot coverage, the commission did ask the applicant to reevaluate that special exception request. Per code, the footprint of the accessory structure containing an ADU can be up to 50% of the footprint of the principal structure. Not to exceed a maximum of 650 square feet. So as anticipated, the designers did increase the footprint of the principal structure, adding 46 square feet to the rear of the home. They also decreased the footprint of the accessory structure from 644 square feet to 598 square feet. So that's now 58% of the footprint of the principal structure. The code also indicates that both the principal and accessory structures shall not have a total building coverage that exceeds 40% of the lot area. And the coverage for both buildings is proposed right now at 32%. So the coverage is well below the maximum of 40%. There were a couple other minor modifications that have been made not related to the requested changes, but they're still worth noting. So for the principal structure, the height of the sloped roof forms have been increased by about 5 inches. The overall height is 20 feet 3 inches, which is still below the maximum permitted. The floor area added to the back of the principal structure resulted in an expansion of the second level rear deck, as well as revisions to the number and style of windows in the area. You can see on here that deck is longer. There are now access stairs to that deck on the back, and there weren't before. And you can see on the elevations the changes that have been made to the windows. Yeah, I think that's everything on that. And then also just very minor on the ADU, that planter box, and also the ADU stairs, their locations have been changed, which is minor, but the general design is the same. So just a brief staff analysis. For the front porch and glazing, staff finds the modifications made to the front porch and entry area have resulted in design that is more compliant with the new construction standards and residential design guidelines. The metal structure with the support posts creates a sense of human scale. Paired with the extended roof canopy and second planter box, there's more of a sense of enclosure for the porch, and the extended slab on grade provided a sitting area, which was specifically requested. For the footprint of the accessory structure, staff finds the most significant site constraint is that narrow lot width near the rear of the principal structure. The lot narrows to about 24 feet wide in that area, and when you take out the side yard setbacks, there's about 11 feet of buildable width. The current proposal is preferred by staff over possible alternatives, which could include further floor area being added to the rear of the home in an effort to increase the footprint, to get a larger ADU footprint, accessory structure footprint. And the applicant could pursue an attached garage in ADU. That would result in an awkward building form and massing at the back of the lot. It would also likely be a lot more visible than having a detached structure. Right now, that detached structure is pretty much directly behind the historic structure to the west. And so having an attached ADU and garage would likely be a lot more visible. And the applicant, I didn't put them in the presentation, but they did provide some street view renderings, placing the structure in there. The ADU is not, it'd be kind of hard to get it in this graphic, but the proposed detached structure, accessory structure, is behind that historic brick home on the left. So it would be slightly visible from the street, but you can imagine if there was massing added onto the back of this home, it would be a lot more visible and taller. That's everything from me.
Commission, do you have questions for the planner? All right, thank you. Can the applicant wish to come up and add to the presentation?
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice to meet you,
second.
by the way. Okay, I'm Wayne Gordon, one of the architects, and had a number of email and telephone conversations with Ashley. I think it's the first time we've seen each other face to face.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not sure.
So thank you for your work here,
Yeah.
and hope you had a nice vacation. Anyway, I think she about covered what we did. There's a second street view if you all would like to see it. I think a little farther up the street. We drove
Yeah,
around,
please
so to
do.
speak.
Yeah.
There's one looking a little farther up the street, and something here that caught my eye to mention. I know there were some comments last time, in fact, with our second-story balcony, and you can see one on the house next door. So we're sort of playing off that a little bit. And as Ashley said, we stretched the house, but the lot keeps narrowing to that narrowest point, and get to a point where it's just really not that habitable back there at the back of that triangular room. Brought the ADU size down as much as we could to, again, keep things livable upstairs and have enough space to park 2 vehicles and actually get in and out of the vehicles in the garage. Didn't want to, tried bringing that a little smaller, but it was not going to be as usable. So this is our revised building per last meeting's comments. I guess I don't have much more to add, but can answer any questions.
I'll start out. I apologize I was not able to make the meeting last month, but I'm not quite clear why the ADU must creep up to 58%. That looks like it's the most straightforward portion of the lot in terms of its form. What's that? You're down to 58% bigger.
It's kind of backwards. We sized the ADU. It's over. The ADU's over top of the 2-car garage, so started with enough space in the 2-car garage to get the 2 vehicles in and get around them. Put the ADU on top of that, and then sort of going backwards. We sort of set the ADU size, and then the house would have had to grow to meet that, or shrink the ADU so it's not usable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that
Yeah.
relationship. How big, how
if
much
like
space
if
what dimensions did you allow for parking 2 cars inside that garage?
Don't remember off the top of my head. If you go to the floor plan, I dashed in a couple of car parking spaces. Yeah, if that east property line was just about 5 degrees clockwise, a little more. Okay, there we go, the lower right.
They're slow. Okay, there we go. So the two car spaces are dashed in there.
What do those dimensions say, please?
So
Okay. Well, that's plenty of space, yeah.
Well, that's the whole, that's the footprint of the structure.
Right, and the parking spaces are 17.6 by, what did I use? Probably
Well, if
8,
it's-
9.
If it's a 16-foot door, those would be 8-foot spots.
It basically went to the zoning ordinance and took, okay, here's a spot, and put those inside.
Yeah. Okay, would you go back to the site plan, please?
Kind of hard to read from here. What would you like to see?
You had the colored one that
Yeah.
that made it easy to read that one, yeah. Okay, so that helps me understand why it's not a simple rectangle, why it's one rectangle overlapped the other. You've got the stairs and a little balcony or something.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a little deceptive. The upper left rectangle is the garage and ADU, and the lower right rectangle is actually the roof over top of the stair.
Okay.
In fact, we tweaked that a little bit. We realized that we had the stairs under cover, but the landing was not. So you'd wanted to get the whole stair and landing under the cover.
So how many square feet would you have to reduce the size of the ADU in order to be at 50%?
Let's see, it's at 596 now. At the old house, it would have been 425.
It's 1035 right now is the principal structure. So 1035 divided by 2 is 5.
That's 17 and a half, yeah. And what's the ADU size now? In square feet?
589, I believe. 598.
I was going to say a bit under 600.
Yeah. Okay.
You're testing my memory, aren't you?
Well, I just hadn't thought that through, but yeah, just trying to.
We're all getting older. I used to be able to keep those in my head
Yeah.
and just rattle them off.
Okay. That's good for my question. Thank you. Commissioners.
I'm going to piggyback on that same line of conversation, in that I think that the intent here is good, and that this is a unique site, and in so much as the applicant is only covering 32% of the site, whereas they could cover 40% of it, I think it is very reasonable for them to ask for what essentially we are doing is transferring square footage of house to the ADU in terms of lot coverage. I think that's a very, very reasonable thing to ask for because this site is so unique.
David, good comment, but should we be doing that executive session, or do you have a question for the
Yes, it
applicant?
could be executive session.
Yeah, I don't know that
Yeah.
it really matters, but I've got the gavel.
We're close.
Probably make it 6:01. Throw in one comment that just for what it's worth, we have our 9-foot setback on the west and the 4-foot setback on the east. We tried flipping those and moving the house west and having the 9-foot on the east to see if that would do anything to help get the house a little bigger and get that ratio down, but it really didn't. So for what it's worth.
Okay. Other commissioners have questions? All right. Thank you. I guess I have no public comment cards. Is there anyone who wishes to?
Hearing was closed, correct? Yeah, there's no public hearing.
The hearing was closed at the last meeting.
Oh,
Did I earn a treat?
okay. Good enough.
Thank you.
So thank you. I guess at this point we can go into executive session. Appreciate your presentation, Ashley, and
Wintergreen, if that's okay. There.
okay.
Well, and I've already made my executive comments, but I would like to add that, as I mentioned in the last meeting, I think that the window wells are something that we may want to look at in a global sense. That it seems to me very reasonable to ask for a much larger window well, at least in width, maybe not in depth.
Yeah, I would,
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
It seems to me that the way our ordinance is written, that the window wells are a limiting design factor.
yeah, I agree. I ran into that on a project up on the east side and wondered why I was limited to the 6 feet in width.
We
It
see
didn't seem
bigger
to be
window
a-
wells all the time, just not in, this area.
Yeah, yeah.
And and over, my years on the commission, we've seen some very creative solutions that are taking very small infill lots and creating homes that are that are I think more in keeping with modern expectations, but they are pushing living space down below grade or significantly into the grade, and utilizing window wells quite a bit.
And-
These tend to be a little bit larger in terms of length, a little bit longer, but I agree. I think it's a great strategy to be able to manage homes that aren't getting out of character in terms of the scale, the height, and the lot coverage, and yet still being able to get something more than what might be otherwise a 1 or a 2 bedroom home.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to bring light and ventilation to a lower level. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I have one question for everyone. I think this is a really successful proposal. I like it in a lot of respects, and I think it's very responsive to our input. The one thing I'm wondering about is the massing of the post on the front porch. That strikes me as not really consistent with the massing overall or the massing in the neighborhood, and I wondered what the architects felt about that.
Ashley, do you have an image that we could see, please?
I don't know what's going on.
Could you,
I always liked Greek Doric, so I know I personally could certainly thicken it up a bit.
Well, I actually, although, Shelley, one of these days we're going to give you an honorary architect's degree because you've got a very keen eye. I actually think that while it is thin, because it's somewhat of a if you will, a very modern, almost like a trellis or a screen type of element that it is supporting, I actually felt like it felt right to me, I guess. It's just my gut instinct. But I mean, absolutely, it's a great question. And I'm just voicing my own personal opinion.
Good observation. I think if they milled a 7x7 post, it's one of those 6x6 a little thin, 8x8's a little thick, kind of right in there.
yeah, okay. I think I'm with Tom on that. The slenderness of that doesn't bother me. When it's tied in with the trellis, the framework up above, there's a visual weight to it.
I do want to echo Shelley's comments. I do feel like the response to the concerns that I participated in or raised last time have been responded to, and I do think that the comments, David, that you made with regard to the ADU, and also that the applicant made with regard to how the approach is, and on a fairly small, uniquely shaped lot, keeping 32% open so that there's some, elbow room, I guess, around the building. I think is a very successful, if you will, mitigation to that request.
Victoria, have you got anything to add to this?
I wasn't here last month for the original proposal, but it's really amazing to watch how nuanced kind of things really do change something. The revisions really make it a more sophisticated kind of structure that I know that neighborhood well. I'm West Side and I love it. So.
Yeah, good, thank you. Robert?
I don't have anything to add. I like the changes a lot that they did, and I thought they were responsive to what we said last month.
Okay. Well, let's take this to a vote then. This being a closed session, we're still voting to approve, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion? Do we have it?
Shelley's our best motion maker.
So in the case of PLN HLC 2018-942 and PLN HLC 2019-111, based on the analysis and findings listed in the staff report and the information presented, along with input received during the public hearing, I move that the commission approve petition 942 and petition 111, which is a request for two special exceptions, one for the placement of window wells in the side yard of the principal structure that exceed the maximum permitted width, and another to permit the proposed accessory structure with ADU to have a footprint that exceeds 50% of the footprint of the principal structure with the following direction, and that is that approval of all final design details, including specific direction expressed by the commission, shall be delegated to planning staff.
Richardson will second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote, starting on my right. Tom?
Aye.
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 The motion passes unanimously. And thank you very much. Good luck on your project.
Go back to work, we got some CDs to finish. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Good luck. All right, other business. National Register nomination for Eagles Building at 404 Southwest Temple.
So this is a request from the State Historic Preservation Office for the Landmark Commission, which is the CLG, the certified local government for this area, to review a National Register nomination for the Eagles Building. And that building's located at 404 Southwest Temple. And it's nominated under criteria A for its association with events that have made a broad, that have association with events that have contributed to broad patterns of our social history because of its affiliation with the Fraternal Order of Eagles. And also for criteria C, because it's the best surviving example of an early 20th century clubhouse for the Fraternal Order of Eagles, and also because of the architect. And as part of that review, I've included the evaluation sheet that the Preservation Office gave. It's located in the back of the packet, and I also printed off a copy because I have to have someone sign that. And so that's the criteria that you'll use for the review. The survey was prepared by make sure I'm pronouncing her name right, Mardita Murphy, and she's not a local consultant, and she was invited but unfortunately wasn't able to attend, so she provided a statement and I included that in the Dropbox. But the property owner is here and I invited him if you have any specific questions that aren't covered in the memo. Just a couple other background points. This building is already located on our local register. It's a landmark site, and so it is subject to the standards in 21A34. So all of the exterior changes that have been made to that building required a certificate of appropriateness, and so the applicant and property owner worked with staff on those changes. So I just wanted to mention that. And I can answer questions, and the property owner is also here. And this is the criteria you're looking at, but I think the screen keeps going in and out, so.
You are welcome to come up if you have anything to add to that. We'd like to hear from you.
So Amy, what's the address of this property?
It's 404 South West Temple, so it's right on the corner.
That's what I thought. It starts out with 1102 West, 400 North on, am I missing this something? So I was the first sentence of your memo to us.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
incorrect.
it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so look at the map, sorry.
Yeah. No, I was trying to picture it over at that other address, and I couldn't get it in my head. No problem.
It's catty corner from the courthouse.
I don't know what the general guidelines are. We're happy to be in the building. We were forced to find a new home for our restaurant and wine bar when they, our landlord was trying to develop the property that we were in for years, in between Main Street and West Temple on 100 South. We had the wine bar in the Bennett Paint Building, and our Cafe Molise was in the Wallace Building next door. Vasilios Priskos wanted to put the convention hotel there. He was really upfront with us through the process and let us know what our options were and let us know when we kind of needed to be out. So he gave us plenty of time. We found this building and kind of fell in love with we love old things anyway, so we fell in love with the building and just wanted to honor the history of the building and do everything as true to form as we could. And we kind of found funding for the building, closed on the building, and spent about a little more than a year doing all of the renovations and converting it. And in that time, I think everyone probably knows Vasilios passed, and they're not going to develop our old location quite as quickly. His son and partner didn't have all the connections, I guess. So that's still there, but we're really happy in our new home, and we're really glad to have been able to save the old building. So yeah, that's it.
Good, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Okay, so how do we need to go about, what's our next step here?
This was not advertised as a public hearing. I know in the past they've done some for neighborhoods as a public hearing, but it's really, you all are the certified local government, so it's not really a public hearing item.
Right. Well, I think this is wonderful. I mean, I look at this building as one of our old friends, and this is an opportunity to raise it up a notch, to give it a singular listing. So, thank you.
And I know that you all worked with city staff. I think Carl, you had worked with Carl and to get advice about the windows, and they look amazing.
Yeah, the elevator
space.
building, the one thing that we
elevator,
added
right.
was the elevator building, and he wanted a distinction between that, the original structure and that. So, yeah, we sourced some old brick for that to kind of, so it still had an old feel to it. We matched the little eyebrows on the windows. So, but yeah, he was really helpful in kind of guiding us and making sure there was a distinction between the old and the new. So,
Thank you so much.
The remodeled space feels great. We're not going to regulate what happens inside the building, but you did do a wonderful job.
thank you.
Yeah.
They also repaired all the original windows. I'm sure you saw that, but.
Every time I go there, I take a
So
look
nobody
at 'em
brought
and
him a vinyl
comment.
flyer over the weekend, or maybe they did and it didn't work.
I think the Association for Preservation Technology is going to have a social there the next few days. Yeah. So, may I make a motion?
Yep, you can make a motion.
That I move that we forward the National Register nomination for the Eagles Building at 404 Southwest Temple, that we forward a positive recommendation to the Utah SHPO for listing on the National Register of Historic Places.
We have a motion. Do we have a second for that, please?
I'll second it.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of this motion? Shelley?
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously.
Great. And then I just have this for you to sign, and
Okay.
this goes back with the recommendation, and then they'll review it at their board history meeting, which I think is the first week of May. I'm not sure the exact date
Very
on
good.
that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good luck.
Great, thank you.
We're done. Move to adjourn.
Great.
6:50.
It's a good thing I came, though. You guys would not have had a quorum.
This is not the meeting to miss. We're done.